Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. I'm going to talk about downfalls a man of God faces, and I think it's so important to know, you know, what can destroy a man's purpose, identity, and how to overcome that. So, first one I will say is bad company. If you're in bad company and you have bad influence, sometimes it can hinder, knowing who you are, your identity. You could be a prophet to the nation, apostle, and you could just be in ministry. But sometimes when you're in bad company, um, you could be surrounded by men that are, misogynist, they're Ahabs, they let Jezebel control their life, and they're quite passive. And I think that's why a lot of men they start to be rebellious because they see men in church and they're being emasculated, and they go into the streets because they feel like men in church are very passive. They let the women wear the trousers, and they let their women be the controlling one, and they might feel like they don't want to be emasculated like that, so they just go somewhere else. So it's so important to understand your influence. Sometimes when it comes to music, media, sometimes, you know, you can get caught up in, what's in trend, and people can influence you, what kind of, person you are, your identity. It can get lost in who you hang out with. You're supposed to be doing big things in your life, but sometimes the bad company you keep, it could hinder your growth. And it's so important to know that when it comes to, knowing your identity and knowing who you are, sometimes when you're in bad company, they can talk bad about you. They can, influence you to do something else. And it's really important to know that when it comes to, your identity and know who you are, it's really important to know that um, you do matter. And sometimes when you're in bad company, they just exploit you. Sometimes they exploit you. Sometimes they lead you to a different direction. That's not what God wants you to do. And sometimes it could be in your family. Like they might want you to do certain things in life, and you might feel like you should be doing something else, but that voice can be from God. Maybe it's deep down inside you want to do something, and it's actually coming from God because you maybe your auntie, your mother, or your father want you to do certain things in life, and you might not want that, but that passion and purpose you have deep inside of you that could be coming from God saying, "This is what I want you to do." So don't ignore that voice. Don't ignore that intuition you have. Can men have it as well? They might say intuition and being spiritual is feminine, but it's not. It's so important to understand the voice of God and know that God talks to you, and you might feel like you're different, and you are, and God wants you to fulfill your potential. So yes, the first one, definitely bad company. The second one is father wounds. You don't have a maybe emotionally present father, or you have abusive father, or just had a father to begin with, and he was never there. It can make you have identity issues. It can make you have identity issues. You might question who you are. You might be like, you didn't know who you are, and it's because your father wasn't there to mentor you and coach you and encourage you to reach your full potential. Maybe he bullied you. Maybe he talked bad and said horrible things. Maybe he was a bitter man. Maybe he just wasn't there, and it made you question your identity. It made you feel like you had low self-esteem. You tried to find validation, and you probably was end up in a cult. Sometimes people don't have fathers; they end up in a cult because they're looking for they're looking to belong, and that's how people get caught up in cults because they need that father figure, and sometimes they end up with being a pastor that's arrogant, and he's very charming, and he didn't realize that he was in a cult, but because he didn't feel like he belonged, he didn't have a father, made him feel like he had no choice, but just that he just felt groomed into being in this cult, and he didn't realize it was a cult, but because he wanted to belong so badly, he didn't realize he was in a cult. So it's that could be a downfall as well, having father wounds, because you're just looking for that that male leader and that male figure. So it's so important to know that. It's so, so important to realize that sometimes you can get caught up in a cult because you want to belong. So the third one is mother wounds. When you have a masculine mother, it can really make you question your manhood. It may question that if you are ready to be a father, ready to be a husband, because you felt like you weren't ready to be a father and a husband because you felt so emasculated. You probably questioned your masculinity because of how she treated you, and it might make you feel like you was not capable of marriage or family because you just felt so emasculated. Maybe she was bitter. She was bitter, and you don't know what it's like to have a male figure in a house, and you probably resent her for her choices. Maybe you felt she was passive. Maybe you felt like she was weak. She wasn't there for you. She abandoned you so much times, and you felt hurt by it. And it doesn't get really talked about. When it comes to Mother's Day, they don't really bash mothers. And so you have this deep resentment, anger that you can't really explain because, in the media, mothers are celebrated, but you feel like your mother's toxic. You feel like whenever you're happy, she's upset. Whenever she's happy, it was all about her needs. She was selfish. She saw you as her therapist, her husband. You was the man of the house. You just wanted to be a little boy, and you just felt maybe you probably felt like your childhood was taken away from you because she was so selfish and self-absorbed, and she just saw you as like extension of herself. She just saw you as a help. She didn't really help you, and now you're wondering if you want to be you even want a wife or you want a mother. You probably that's why some women are very angry because they're thinking that I married a baby. It doesn't know how to be a father, doesn't know how to be a mother. So it's important to understand that when it comes to you know understanding your wounds and getting down to the root cause of it. Because sometimes you are looking for a mother, you're not looking for a wife because you didn't have that. You didn't have that nurturing mother, that nurturing feminine mother. You had the mother that was masculating and needy and desperate and just had no morals, no integrity, and that probably hurt you. Um, the fourth one is spiritual abuse. In church, maybe you had an abusive youth leader. They gossip behind your back and made you feel embarrassed. You probably felt ashamed because of, maybe you done certain things you're not proud of, or embarrassing things happen to you, and they exploit your trust. They gossiped about you, and you felt very betrayed, and you felt maybe you looking for that father figure, and they took advantage, and they emasculated you, they embarrassed you in front of people. You felt so embarrassed, and they emasculated you, and then you just felt like you saw a different side of church, and you just was disgusted, and maybe you just feel very hurt because you can't believe church people could be like that. So definitely spiritual abuse can be a downfall because you see someone in a different light and you're shocked. So it's so important to know that, when it comes to, um, spiritual abuse, heal, it's so important to understand that, some people aren't perfect and you can walk away. Some people don't walk away. They end up being emasculated, they end up being Ahab'd, and they end up men that end up being very feminine and they just and it's so important to help to seek wisdom as well and to actually understand witchcraft, spiritual warfare. It's so important to be guarded about that and fasting and praying. It's not just for women. Men should fast and pray as well and get wisdom and understand what's going on around them so they can actually help their family. Because if you want a family one day, their witch can come into the church and try to destroy your marriage. It's so important to understand that some witches will try to destroy your families, and it's so important to know how to pray and fast as a man. It's not just for women. Uh, um, Next one is heartbreak. A woman breaking your heart or a girl breaking your heart. That could be a big downfall. If you don't know how to get back up in the hill, that could be a downfall. You might end up being a player. You might end up self-destructing yourself. You end up with a health scare because a woman hurt you. And it's so important to understand that when it comes to heartbreak, it's so important to know how to heal, how to have coping, how to cope, how to, get the counseling and healing you need, and heal in the right way. If you try to self-destruct through addictions and escapism and like being just addictions stuff like that, it doesn't help. It's so important to know that when it comes to you know healing from heartbreak, it's important to heal properly. Getting deliverance, healing, counseling, journaling, going for a walk, working out, and learning from what you've made as well. Like, don't be prideful and think, oh, it was all her fault. Look at yourself. Why are you attracting Jezebels? Why are you attracting bad girls? Like, look at yourself and have self awareness as well, and just to give yourself compassion and know that you had a good heart, and you had good intentions as well. Next one is betrayal. When it comes to friendships, betrayal, that could really hurt you, and that could lead to self destruct as well. So it's so important to understand that when it comes to betrayal and people, betraying your trust, it could really leave a deep, like, it could really break your heart and could really turn you bitter. You don't have to become bitter. You can learn from it and be like, you know what, you don't have to, um, you don't have to tolerate that. You don't have to feel like you have to stay stuck in bitter. You can grow from it. You can be like, you know what, that was heartbreaking, but you can heal and you can just overcome it. You don't have to be this bitter person. Um, the next one is rejection. If you go through rejection at school, by your teacher, or by your friends, or by just people bullying you and troubling you, that could really mess with your self esteem. If someone picking on you, they're calling you names, they're treating you like rubbish, that can make you feel like that could destroy your self esteem. That could be your downfall. So it's so important to understand when it comes to rejection, even when it comes to family, you being the black sheep of the family, you being the forgotten child, that could really be your biggest downfall, because you walk around trying to chase titles, trying to make a name for yourself, all because you didn't fit in at school, all because you was the black sheep of the family. Now you're trying to prove yourself, but you are enough. You don't have to do all that. Um, the next one is situationships. You know, chasing a woman, like, some women are very entitled. They want your money, that's it. They want your money, they want your attention, that's it. And when you get into a situationship, that could leave you feeling so humiliated and ashamed. I've seen it. People lose their minds, think that the woman likes them, and they don't. Don't let the delusions and fantasies get to your head. I know some men are very prophetic. They're creative, and it gets to their head. They might fault. They delude themselves thinking the girl likes them, and the girl doesn't like them. And it's so important to understand the signs and don't delude yourself. Because some women do it too. They think, oh, he likes me, and it's just like there's no real evidence that he likes her. So it's so important to understand that. Don't delude yourself. Don't get caught up in all these feelings and thoughts and just imaginations. It's so important. Just see for what things are, see things for what they are, and know that things should be clear. You shouldn't be in a situation. You should understand what's going on. Um, Next one is finance. When it comes to finances, it's so important to know not to be obsessed with money, have self control. Because even when it comes to marriages as well, like finances can be a downfall. If you don't know how to save money, or if your wife doesn't know how to save money, she's reckless with money, it can really destroy your family. So finance is important. Know how to have self control. Don't be obsessed with money. Don't idolize money. Just know that it's important to have self control when it comes to finances and know how to maintain yourself. And it's so important to, don't get carried away when it comes to finances, because you don't want to be having financial tax and stuff and having issues of poverty. That poverty mindset. Don't have that poverty mindset. And the last one is health. Self care is important. Going to the gym, taking care of your body is so important. Some men, when they're going through a hard time, some men emotionally, when they don't know how to deal with their emotions, they emotionally eat. So it's important to know that being healthy is so needed. Going to the gym, working out, not just for ego, but actually eating healthy and being a healthy person and eating well is so good for the soul. And being healthy, going to counseling, take care of your mind, body, and soul, and just taking care of yourself. I hope that helped. If you need any counseling or coaching or prayer requests, email me. Thank you for listening.